All right, hello everyone. My name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. All right, hello friends. We're gonna keep this weekly wrap up as succinct and to the point as possible. Just kidding, it's probably not gonna be that. I'm not gonna lie, this week it's actually gonna be more heavy than not for the books that were read. As you may be able to see from the cover photo, I read a book that people have been hounding me to read for quite a while, specifically no one more than my sister, who has not shut up about this book for, I think it's been almost 2 years. Maybe not, maybe just one. I don't know. When did this one come out? Let's see. Okay, so 1+ years. My sister has been hounding me about a certain book that I read this week. And I did it. But it wasn't the only heavy book I read. Also, a few other announcements up front. I am running my summer Patreon sale right now because there's a possible event that is happening next week. Now, I am not going to talk about it on the channel yet, but if you go into the description, you can see what that event might possibly be. I just don't want to talk about it on the channel yet because I don't know whether it's happening or whether it's not. And if it doesn't end up happening, then I'm going to delete it from the description and just leave the code for the discount down there. But I'm just going to leave it in the description. And also, if you are a patron already, my next vlog will talk much more in detail about the what's possibly going on and everything. I know that was sufficiently vague, but I promise you, if you open up the description, you will understand what I'm alluding to immediately because it explains it. But either way, I am running a 20% off all of the benefit deliverable tiers, which that means I have certain tiers that I don't have any open spots on them because they have physical deliverables. But the romantic tip jar, the swooning for you, the faithful followers, and the proud producer tier all have a 20% off your first month or your first year available right now. I'm running that. I meant to do a deal this summer or some kind, and the summer is getting away from me right now. So if you're someone who is on the free tier and you've been thinking about it or something like that, you can definitely check out my Patreon now and get either the first month or the first year for 20% off. Also, if you are a free member and you haven't yet, on my profile on my Patreon, I do have a free membership perk sampler, which has 5 different videos that were previously available only to my patrons, but I've now made them available to the free tier. That is a new thing I'm trying out to allow you guys kind of like a sampler pack. I'm hoping to trade some of those videos out every now and then. So yeah, make sure you are checking out my Patreon. As I talk about whenever I can, it's only because of Patreon that I'm able to do what I do here. So I guess that was a little sponsor section sponsored by me. So enough of that. Let's get into the things that I read this week. And as I said, buckle up because there's some heavy ones. So the first thing that I finished was actually a fanfic, and this one was called All the Lights Turned Off Can Be Turned On by Luciano Ryder. Now, first off, big trigger warning for self-harm in this one. I know, it's intense. So if you don't love hauling off or you don't want to hear about a self-harm attempt, just skip to the next book right away. Because this one involves Shane and Ilya being outed. So it takes place during the long game at the point where they've been outed by the fan mail video, which again, if you've read the long game, you'll know exactly where that happens and what's going on. And instead of them just buckling down and coming up with a plan. When Ilya is at an away game, he sends a text message to Ilya that is a goodbye note. And Ilya immediately calls Hayden first, actually, because Hayden lives the closest to Shane. And then he calls Una and David, basically telling them to please go check on Shane. And Hayden is actually the one who arrives to Shane's apartment to discover him having attempted you know what. Now, what you don't realize is this isn't just the pressure of being outed. It isn't just his anxiety getting a hold of him. But you don't just get given that right away. Like, it isn't just immediately told, because Shane is in a psych hold. And he is maybe going to be there even longer than normal, because even after getting help, he doesn't immediately just want, he isn't immediately, sorry is the wrong thing, because it's like, he shouldn't necessarily have to be sorry for what he's feeling or what his mental health is doing, but he isn't immediately, let's say, regretful or happy that he's been saved. So again, very, very dark, all these things. But again, the way this fic author wrote this, Luciano writer, I thought they did a really great job, though, because Ilya does start to piece things together, but Ilya also has a lot of rage, not all of it directed at Shane, of course. He is a little bit upset at Shane, that Shane wouldn't, share some of the burden with him. He thought they were partners. They are, like, engaged at this point, too. So he's like, you were just going to leave me? And also, Ilya's a little bit flabbergasted, because he's the one everybody's always worried about mental health wise. And he, is just like, what did I miss? And also to do this to, again, this isn't completely about Ilya, but it's like, he's like, what would he have come like home to when he had already once found someone he loved gone before, right? So there's just a lot. But again, there was a specific inciting incident that leads Shane to doing this. And it isn't as simple as them just being outed being the reason that Shane wanted to do this. There is something that had happened to him about why he does it, and I will just leave it that I link this fic down below, and you can check out the trigger warnings, because they are kind of, you guys know, I don't consider trigger warnings spoilers, but I've already talked about some very heavy topics, and if what I've said has you intrigued in the story, you can go look at this fic and read what those other trigger warnings are and decide if you want to read it at all, because this is very heavy. However, despite all those heavy features that I just listed, this was a very powerful one, right? This was, I think it worked out to around, this was around a 320 page story. And it was very, very good. There was no real, intimacy or spice in this story. It's really about their journey of Shane healing and then both of them healing, because again, initially Ilya's trying not to blame Shane for this, but there are parts that Ilya's going to have to forgive Shane for eventually too. Like in the immediate aftermath, it's about how do we move forward together. But again, this is very traumatizing for Ilya too. There's also some beautiful stuff with Hayden, who, again, Hayden, I don't want to cry right now. I'm already fighting the redness because of how warm it is here, so I don't want to cry now. But Hayden was the one who found him, and there are some really beautiful points too where Hayden says, I'm never going to forget what I saw, but I'm also grateful that neither his parents nor Ilya had to be the ones to see Shane like that. But there's a scene particularly I just want to recount that, Hayden is written very well in this. There are some things that Hayden, as a best friend, he just takes a lot of slings and arrows from Ilya, honestly, because Ilya is very, rageful. You're the one who's with him on this team. You're supposed to have his back. Why aren't you noticing these things? And of course, that's not fair, but I really appreciate how the Hayden in this story reacted. And I think him having found Shane is the reason why he kind of allows those outbursts from Ilya without Hayden trying to be like, well, you're his partner. Like, you know, you're the one who is so sensitive to mental health. You know, instead of those things that could have made Hayden insufferable, because Hayden's the one who found his best friend, he is like, he allows Ilya those outbursts because he feels it himself, and he knows there'll be a time for them to like work through this later. And it was really good, but it's not gonna be for everyone at all. That one was really heavy. Of course it was, but that was one where I can't remember how I'm sure it was from Threads. I get most from Threads, though that one could have been from Instagram too, because there's a few people I follow who give recs on Instagram as well. So anyway, that one I only recommend in very specific situations. Okay, next up we have a lighter one to pop in. This was called The Royal Situation by Lyra Parrish. And this was kind of a wild card for me. And I don't quite know why I requested it. I can't remember. And I definitely was late getting to this one. I kind of was only going to give it like an hour of listening to it last Sunday. And if I didn't like it, I was going to tell Must Love Audio that I wouldn't get to it because there's just a lot going on. However, after an hour of listening to it, I was kind of hooked. And I listened to it while I was working on one of my cross-stitch projects this week. So this one, I, hadn't read any of the others in the series, but I think this was a series where like each book stood alone pretty well, I guess. And this was actually about Crown Prince Louis and Addison, who I guess is a sister to one of his friends. And Crown Prince Louis, again, this was narrated in the dual style. I actually haven't listened to a dual style in a while. Everything's been duet by Patrick Zeller and Andrea May. And this was, new to me author. Though I have read this author when they were Brooke Fox. So this is the author who used to be author buddies with Brooke Montgomery. Lyra Parrish and Brooke Montgomery became two separate entities a few years back. But I hadn't read anything just by her in a while. Or yet, I mean. So, Addison is actually an artist. And her and Louis actually run into each other at first. And they have this flirt situation. But then they go their separate ways, and he can't stop thinking about her. And I think he doesn't know this is his friend's sister until after the interaction. And once he knows, he's like, oh, dang, well, nothing's going to be happening with her then, because nothing's going to happen with her. And also, he is supposed to find a wife. And if he doesn't find a wife within a certain amount of time and start getting that woman pregnant, his family's going to pick someone for him. And it's that type of story. That's what the royal situation is. Now, also what ends up happening, though, is that once this ultimatum is laid down on him, he has been looking for a wife for ages. He actually has this little book where he keeps track of all the women that he meets. And I know this might sound trashy, but how's a man supposed to do this? He has a little score that he keeps. Now, he doesn't, it's actually really sweet. There's like 10 different, there's like 10 different categories, and they can have a score of like 1 to 10 in them. And so he's rating too, like their ambition, their kindness, their, it isn't all about things superficially. Like he really is looking for the next queen of his country. So I think him having a little black book that he's scoring these, honestly, hundreds of women that have gotten shoved at him over the years, what's a quick way to do it? I thought it was kind of cute, actually. But anyway, Addison ends up at the palace because she's actually there for a kind of a competition. It's not like a competition like The Bachelorette or something, but it's a competition of who will be the next royal portrait artist. And she is picked to be one of the contestants of this. And so if she wins, though, she will be the next person who's doing the portraits of Louis and whoever's going to be his wife. So as things between them become flirtatious, like it's so hard to explain it in a quick review, but there are a lot of stakes to their romance. Of course, him being the crown prince, and if she really is to fall for him, she would be the queen. Or if she doesn't and she becomes the royal portrait artist, she would be painting portraits of him and his queen for the next many decades, watching him have a wife, watching each of his children come, and that could be devastating. So they either need to be all in or all out with each other, and how that was handled in here I thought was really fascinating. And I also really liked Addison. I liked that she really thought about the weight of it. And the way these two actually end up flirting with each other is through a game of chess, which I really liked. And when they start meeting up, like, they both are aware of what the stakes are. And so though there is a point where they're like, okay, well, this is just a secret rendezvous, like it can't be anything more than it is, very quickly they realize they're falling for each other. And they have to have that conversation of like, okay, well, if you're really falling for me, that means the destination is you as queen of this country. Like, are you willing to go all the way with me? Because if you're not, then this is like, like, what are we doing? And so there were a couple points where I was worried that that's what was happening, but then their very clear connection and how well they just get each other would come out. And anytime there would be kind of a push to nudge him towards someone else, he would just remember her. And he's like, no, I know it seems irrational and impossible, but she's the one for me. I have to make it work with her, or I'm dooming myself. And like, as much as I care about my country will be better if I have the right queen by my side, and she will be the right queen by my side too. So I just loved how that all went. Now, of course, we have opposition. We have a mother, the current queen, who is like, she's not the right match for you. I see this flirting that's happening. We need to nip it in the bud. She does some pretty seriously audacious things. Like, I'm calling it out, the queen does. We have the current king, who is ill. He has cancer. And part of the reason why Louis is being pushed to get married right now is that his father is tired of fighting his cancer. He wants to be done. And so that's why Louis needs to be married and have a child on the way to secure the line. Though he does have a sister. So whenever his sister is being too sassy too, he's like, I could just abdicate and then this is all your problem. And she's like, don't mess with me. And also, you could never do that. But the only detriment I have, because I will tell you, I did give this a 4.5. I rounded it to a 5. I really loved this book at the end of the day because I've read quite a few royal romances, and there's only so many plots you can do in a contemporary setting with a royal romance, right? Like, you either have it where the royalty really doesn't mean anything at all, and then they're basically just a celebrity, or the royalty means everything. And if it means everything, then you have to take it seriously, and that it isn't just something that you can blow off, and this book really walked the line between that. It really did. But there's something that the queen does that, to me, should have been in a dark romance. Like, for real. It was ridiculous, okay? A thing the queen does. And we just forgive her because, she just wanted what's best for the country. She just wanted what's best for the country. And look, it just pushed you to prove how much you really love each other. And I call bullshit. And, the Addison, by the end, there's even this little quote that's like, I just recognize how much she is fierce, and like, I want to be as fierce of a queen as she is. And I'm like, no, actually, she's the evil queen for a specific thing that she does in here, and I don't forgive her. So I knocked off half a star, but I still rounded it to a 5 because Addison was very smart. She's very determined. And there was a couple points where I felt like this book was going to be wishy-washy. And then, like, they acknowledge that they're being wishy-washy, and they're like, no, the stakes are too high for us to be like that. Like, that's not, like, I do want to be king, and I want to love you. And so that means we have to be serious. And there are a couple bold moves that Louis does, and there are a couple really bold moves that Addison does. And so I just respected them so much. And even when there were a few times with the lip service of them being like, oh no, I feel this way about it, blah, blah, blah. No, like truly they were devoted and dedicated to the country, and I liked it. So I gave it 4.5 stars. And also it was really hot. There were some really great secret rendezvous, and I gave it 3.5 stars for that. But yes, trigger warning for an ill parent and for a gaslighting parent at some points, a kidnapping, and yeah, some uncomfortable situations. But I liked it, and I would read another. All right, then I did have another fan fiction. This one was called Laceration by AC91. And this was one that I actually started a long time ago, and I thought about DNFing it, but I also wanted to see how it was going to work out. But once I tell you what it's about, you'll maybe understand why I almost DNF'd it, and you might be like, Jen, why were you reading it? Well, sometimes I like to try different things, you guys know, because I end up finding something. But in this one, Shane and Ilya are playing for a hockey team that it appears to kind of be like a intramural sport or something. I think that's what you call it. I don't know. Or maybe a beer league. I don't know. Because it appeared to have like every hockey character we like all on the same team. Like Shane and Ilya were on the same team. But Shane is dating Rose in this one. And he and Shane, the book starts with, Shane is dating Rose. And it starts with Ilya and Shane actually hooking up. And Shane then like freaks out, and we see him going home to Rose and getting in bed next to Rose and having like a panic attack. So this book starts with a hookup with Ilya, and it's the first time Shane's ever been with a man. And so he's having his like gay awakening when he's already in a relationship with Rose. So it's a cheating book. Okay, it's a cheating book. And again, I normally wouldn't read those, but it's a fan fiction, and I wanted to see where this was going to go. So this isn't super long. It's like 230 pages about. It was like, what was it, like 50,000 words? Maybe less than that. I don't know. It wasn't super long. But it was painful at some points. It's called Laceration. But it also had kind of a bit lower stakes because they weren't in professional hockey. They were in, just kind of this league for themselves, and they were actually teammates. But it is a secret romance. There's cheating. Rose doesn't deserve that. Shane, though, his family's like expecting him to propose to Rose. Actually, too, when he first hooks up with Ilya, Ilya doesn't know that he's dating Rose. So it's Shane's the cheater, and he makes Ilya the other man or the other woman or whatever in the scenario. But then they're both so addicted to each other, and Shane doesn't know if this is just he was drunk and had a fling and, ooh, I'm having a sexual awakening I wasn't expecting, or like what more is there. And he does truly love Rose, so he doesn't know what happened. And so I thought this was kind of an interesting thing because it was like, what if Shane met Ilya when he already was with someone else? And I've read that like one other time too, but it was when he was with someone who was kind of gaslighty and jerky. And there is one I'm also waiting on that still isn't finished. That's supposed to be one where Shane's in an abusive relationship and Ilya help him get out of it. Still waiting for that one to be done. It's so long at this point, and each time the fic author adds another chapter, I'm like, can you just be fucking finished so I can read this? But anyway, so yeah, I'm not saying I recommend this one, but I did finally finish it, and I thought how it ended was acceptable or kind of cute by the end, but still, I don't like reading too many where there's cheating. I'm fine if it's forbidden or it's hidden or something like that, but there's a reason why we like them together once everything's working out, All right, here it is, the one that I've been teasing and saying I was getting to, and I finally read it. Okay, I read Sunrise on the Reaping. Yes, this is the paperback edition. I was talking, I don't know why we made this one blue as well. I'm sure there's supposed to be a reason why this one is blue as well, but I wish it was purple like the hardcover. Why did we switch it to blue when Mockingjay is already blue? I'd have to read to see about why. Again, I'm sure there's some symbolism why it is, but also I think it's a weird choice that it is. So anyway, I finally read this to prepare for the movie coming. It's been a long time, y'all, but I have read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I actually did like a vlog while I was reading it when it came out. I read that one right when it came out, and I despise that book. I really didn't care for it. I know some people love it. There's the reasons for loving it. I didn't care for that story. I know it gave us details about snow. The only parts I really liked about it were the details about other people. I don't really care about villain origins. I don't. I wouldn't have mind reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, maybe if it had even been like a, I don't know, if it had been more of a, like, the beginnings of Pan Am, like, written as almost like a nonfiction pamphlet or something, but then we had, like, someone writing in the true history of stuff in a pen, almost like it was the ship of Theseus or something. You guys know what that story is that I'm talking about. But I just didn't care for it. Okay, that's my personal feeling. I didn't care for it. Doesn't mean it was well written. It was absolutely well written. Suzanne Collins is super talented. I just didn't care for that story. I didn't like it. But this was one that I had always wanted her to do. It's just after I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I was like, ugh, I don't know how much I want to read prequels anymore. I'm pretty burned out by those, actually. And also, I just know how much this was going to suck. Like, I knew how much this was going to suck from reading Catching Fire. And I know that's supposed to be the point. I get it. Again, I don't need anyone to explain to me why this book exists. There was a time when I would have given ever anything to read this book. But then when it actually came out, and she actually gave us the thing that we'd asked for instead of Snow's book, where we were like, oh, I don't want to read Snow's book. I now do also understand after reading this why we got Snow's book first. That makes a lot of sense why we got Snow's books first, because there are some pretty key little things that we get. But mostly all the purpose of this is just like torture, gore of children, and breaking our hearts when we know where it ends up, right? Like, you know, at least in Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, each one of those is really like leading to it. This is just adding another one of the painful ones in there to make it even more painful. And then it has the shortest epilogue almost of like all of them. Like, it's so short. Like, you gave us a flash forward epilogue that is like so freaking short. Like, that is disgusting to me. We should have got a whole chapter of the after and how Haymitch is doing, and seeing him be like a grandpa to Peeta and Katniss's kids. Like, I should have gotten to see all that. Anyway, backtrack again. I seem so angry talking about this. Let me tell you before I go into more, I gave this 5 stars. It was fantastic, okay? It's everything. I'm just indignant at how painful it is, okay? That's not taking away from how good it is. I hope I get that out as clear, and I am not dissing you if you love it, because I loved it. Okay, I loved it. I loved it. It's 5-star. It's perfection. Every chapter ends in a place that tears you up a little bit more. I always loved Haymitch in the original trilogy. I always loved him, okay? I did. There was just something about him where I was like, man, this guy. And so, yeah, this just fleshes out why you love him even more. It's so interesting to know these pieces of him, that the reaping is always on his birthday. And now, after the events of this, like, this sunrise on this reaping day was the last, like, good morning of his life, basically. Which, literally the last good morning of his life was reaping day on his 16th birthday. He never had another good night of sleep or good morning the rest of his life. And that is just horrendous. But then you also see all these other people too, who, when you learn how much they tried to have a 75th Hunger Games at the 50th, sorry, I don't want to spoil every little thing, but I'm late to the party in this one. This came out over a year ago, so I'm spilling all my thoughts that the people want to know. People want to know how I feel about it, so I'm telling you. And you see all these people that were so hopeful for Haymitch to be what Katniss will be. It's just devastating because they had so much in place. And it feels like there was so many people ready for it, but it wasn't time yet. It wasn't time yet. Even though there was still so many people fired up, and they were younger, and it felt like they had even more in place. And when you look at how it happened in Catching Fire, they were like so hesitant almost. It feels like they were like, I don't think it's going to work, because they had already tried. And who's to say they didn't try even more than that, right? But, you know, when you get to the end of this and you know that Plutarch is just going to wait and wait for another 25 years, and Haymitch every birthday is going to be I mean, he even says it. You feel it already. As soon as you hear, like, that's the thing with being in like, I'm not diminishing children reading these books, but that's the thing with being an adult who read the Hunger Games trilogy as a teen, and then has read them so many times, like yearly, multi-yearly for a decade. I read them so many times. I read those books constantly. Then when the movies came out, I watched, like, I know every chapter of that original trilogy, okay? Before I switched fully into romance, I was rereading this type of stuff all the time. I'm gonna set this down a little bit. My wrist is hurting. So there are certain things that now as an adult who analyzes story a bit more than I did back then, though I still did back then too, but analyzing story a bit more now as an adult. There are certain pieces, once you get the information, stuff immediately clicks for you. And then there's other things that are dawning horror as you go, right? Like a few things that click is that when it wakes up and it's his birthday, I immediately was like, oh my God, he gets gifted 2 tributes to watch die on his birthday. And why he's drunk every time, which I know he's drunk all the time, but like why he's drunk every reaping day. You know, he used to start his birthday with his family, and even though it was like a sad day, it was almost something for his whole village to kind of be like, okay, we have the reaping, but also like in the morning it could be Haymitch's birthday and then like reaping day, you know? Like there was more to it than that. And there was almost like a little bit of hope in his life. Like it doesn't feel as grim as it will the 74th and the 75th Hunger Games that we'll see. So that was so strange. And you just get this pit in your stomach where they're like, whoa, why are we being, well, and of course some of it too is because he's in love with someone. Like, I'll just tell you, I just tried to like freeze out every time they mentioned Lenora Duff. I was like, oh, just pretend she doesn't exist. Like, I know we can't do that, but like, I was like, I'm just pretending you don't exist because I knew nothing good is coming of that. And then there's Luella and Lulu. I don't think I physically will make it through a film well. The description of Luella sounds exactly like my niece. Like, exactly like my niece. I already was feeling that way about like Prim, thinking that my little Renny Penny looks like Prim. And then we add in Luella and Lulu. And then my friend was sending me a picture of who they cast to play Ampert, this sweet, beautiful little boy. And I'm just like, oh God, it just hits more when you're an adult. It just hits more when you're an adult. When I was a kid, you're more like, ooh, how would I survive it? How could I do it? And now as an adult who, if life had been different, I could have children who were that age. You are just like, this is fucking sick. How is this like a middle grade age or a young adult age story? Which again, not that we should hide these type of stories from our children, but this one particularly, I'm like, this is fucking sick. It's fucking sick. And again, 5 stars. Okay, again, just remind you, 5 stars. It's just fucking sickening. So yeah, every moment of Haymitch, like, I listened to the audio of this. Yes, it's Jefferson White. He's fantastic. I knew it was him, the guy from Yellowstone. He plays Jimmy. When the audio, when it was announced he was doing it, like, my sister read this book immediately. Like I said, she read it immediately. And she's been trying to get me to read it ever since. And I was just like, Elizabeth, when I pull out the Elizabeth, you know, it's a big deal. I was like, I'm not emotionally ready to read this right now. Please stop. Okay. All right. And it's one of those things too that you always joke about as a reader, that I recommend hundreds of books to my sister over the years. I talk to her about all different types of books. I know the type of books that she'll like. And then she reads one fucking book before me, and she's got to push it on me for the next year plus. Okay? All right? I love you, Beth, in case you watch this. I love you. But fuck you a little bit, Elizabeth. Fuck you a little bit. So yeah, I knew it would be great. Suzanne writes so good. It's so poignant. Again, I don't even want to start listing the other characters that I heard to see. Oh my God, seeing Megs and Wyrus, Beatty, and knowing who Amber is to him, knowing that this is the 50th and that it's going to take 25 more years, which is, you know, how many hundreds more children dead. And it's just awful. It's just awful. And Maisie Lee Donner. Oh God, Maisie Lee Donner. What was funny too, again, not funny, tragic. Again, I've read the original trilogy 10, 15 times all the way through. There was a time where they were so, before there was movies of it, they were so cinematically written. And again, there's a whole thing. I know she wrote it that way. She used to write for TV. They're written like act. That's why each chapter ends so cinematically. I know. That's the thing. I don't talk about them on my channel anymore, but I was obsessed with these books. Okay. So I know all of the I know all of the things. But for some reason, when I was like listening to this, because again, I listened to this, the first half of it, I listened with Sarah on our trip. My friend Sarah and I went on a trip, and Maisie Lee Donner kept getting brought up. And I was like, I recognize that name. Is she named after someone? Like, why was I and it just wasn't clicking, because again, I was listening to it. And I was like, why am I recognizing her name from something else? Like, where am I seeing it? So while we're listening to it, I just like look her up, and I'm like, why am I, you know, I was thinking for some reason that like she was going to be around. Anyway, I won't go through it all with you guys, but I type in her name, and as soon as I type in her name to Google, I'm like, oh no, Jen, you know her from Catching Fire. Again, it's been a few years since I have reread them, because they pain me too much now that I'm a bit older, and all I see is babies. All I see is babies dying when I read these. It's a lot harder now. Because I have nieces and nephews this age. I don't know how parents ever read these. Like, my sister wanting me to read this, I'm like, you masochistic whore. Like, why do you want me to read these? Like, you're the one with the precious blonde baby girls. Like, why do you want me to read this? Like, stop it. Anyway. And I was like, why do I recognize the name Maisie Lee Donner? Because it kept being said, and I was like, is it just from the Donner Party? Like, why am I recognizing? And then I type in her name, and I'm like, oh, God, no. It's literally from that one chapter in Catching Fire when they recall the 50th Hunger Games. And you know that they were allies. And I was like, oh God, somehow that name was burned into the recesses of my memory without knowing any more about her. But I remember when I read it at the time, I was like, we know that the Capitol sews this all up in a bow. Like, we know that. That's the whole point, is the propaganda of it. And I remember back then when I was doing my 10th, 15th read of it, being like, there must be so much more about her. But Haymitch doesn't tell us more, you know, and he's not the most talkative anyway. And when they're rewatching that stuff, he's just telling bits and pieces of it and everything. But I always knew, I was like, there's more about her, right? And so then as we're reading this, and remembering that, like, who Maisie Lee is, and that she is like the aunt of the girl in town, right? And the one who was the original owner of the Mockingjay pin. And knowing that she made everybody's tokens. And that she was this hard shell of a girl who just starts off being seen as mean and hard, but it's just because what point is there getting close to people who might die? But then once you're in it, it's like, well, I'm gonna make them feel pretty. In their last, like, days. These children. And I kind of liked how Haymitch and Maisley were like, you know, Haymitch called them his doves. But Haymitch and Maisley were kind of trying to be like parents for these little kids that were all going to die in there. And Haymitch knew, he's like, each one of them that I care about is another one that it's going to hurt when they go. So, anyway, that's why I started out so snarky, guys. That's why I didn't want to get to it. Now, to finish up my thoughts on this, I didn't actually cry this much while reading it. Because I really was just kind of like put my head down and like bear it. Also, first I was listening with Sarah. Then I was listening at the Crafters Retreat. It's really only like the story when you reflect on it and you just think about the loss of all the children. Also, it just makes me like, it gets you like so angry, this type of story does. Oh, she's just such a damn good writer. How much she's done within this world. Gosh, I want her to write some other worlds too. I want her to write some other stories too. Please, Suzanne, do. I mean, Haymitch's is beautiful. Like, really, his story. Oh my gosh, it is. But I just want these characters to get to rest now that we've made films out of every single one and all of these things. I want her to write another story. I want her to write a different one, and do one for a new generation. Write another one, you know, because it's so good. It's so good. And, you know, I don't need there to be one, write this from Peeta's point of view, write this now from, Plutarch's point of view. Like, Effie point of view. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. The story is powerful and it's good. And this was good. Like, this was the one I wanted. If we could have any of them, like, I will concede I understand the purpose of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in the retrospect, especially how it clicks in with this one now. Seeing the President Snow we see in this one is very interesting. But I'm okay with us, like, we don't need to pick at this stuff anymore, in my opinion, okay? But I absolutely see the purpose of this one. I think it's fantastic. I hope you understand me when I say, like, let these characters be at rest now. I don't need more. I don't need more. We don't need the first quarter quell. I don't need to know who's in that. I don't need to see that one. We've done it. Tell us a new story, Suzanne, because, dear Lord, you tell powerful ones. You tell powerful ones. Okay, time to move on. I do have one other story to talk about, but as I mentioned, 5 stars. God, I don't know how I'll make it through a film of this. It comes out November 20th, which, one final thing that made me chuckle, because that's definitely the Lionsgate date. November 20th was always when the Twilight movies or the Hunger Games movies were coming out. And I love that. So I love that it's on November 20th. So for Thanksgiving, probably going to have to go see this fucking movie with my sister and cry together, and watch babies get murdered. But I'm sure it'll be fantastic. But yeah. Okay. One last one to mention. I also read Breakaway by Noelle Adams. Yes, the author that I work for. You know she has to show up here, y'all. This is book 1 in the Magnuson twin duet. So there is Leo and Elias. I think Elias is his other brother, but this one is Leo's book. This is Leo and Lily. And this ends up being a fake dating, vacation, romance, staying in the same room, only one bed story. And it's a pretty quick one too. It's novella length, and Lily has actually been pining after Elias for a long time, and he's never noticed her. Leo and her are actually kind of frenemies. Their families, or at least she's known their families pretty well. I get the impression from the story that she's not that close with her family, but she is kind of close with their family. And her and Leo are kind of like frenemies, and Leo suggests that they date to get his brother's attention. And so they end up fake dating during this family vacation, and it ends up that actually Leo's been secretly pining for her all this time, and yeah, things progress from there. So this one was pretty cute. It's not my favorite one from her, but I really liked Leo. I liked Lily. There was some really great banter. I thought Leo was very charming. He was a bit of a rogue. He was a bit of a rascal. And yeah, lots of only one bed, vacation getaways. It also had the trope of like him needing to take lots of showers to relieve himself because being next to her turns him on. And there's a funny joke where she's like, do you really take this many showers every day? And he just straight up says, he's like, no, but I'm sleeping in a bed next to you and you're super hot, so I've had to take more showers than normal. Which is the bluntness that I love about when Noelle writes stories like that. So that was really fun. So yeah, if you're looking for a fun little vacation romance, try that one. And I haven't read this one yet, but I'm pretty positive book 2 is Runaway, and it's a runaway bride romance, which will be Elias's book, because yeah, Leo and Elias are twin brothers. So that rounds off my week. So didn't read too many things, but they were some pretty heavy hitters emotionally, and I am in the middle of some really great ones. But yes, again, to remind you, check out the description about what might be happening next week. And I will hopefully still have some content recorded for you guys. I'm going to do my best to prepare, but that might be happening. So check that out. And either way, there is the deal going on with my Patreon for 20% off your first month or your first year. And there is also a members perk sampler pack available right now on my Patreon. And without my Patreon, I couldn't do what I do. So thank you all so much. I'm going to go blow my nose and wipe my eyes because I knew Sunrise on the Reaping was going to be a tough one to talk about. But there it is. I read it. Aren't we all just so happy that I did? All right. I'll see you guys next time.